Alright, welcome to episode 86 of Adventures in Inbetweening. Today I am looking at another episode of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that I animated on in 2015. This is the 10th episode I animated on, Season 3, Episode 21.
Perhaps I'll dominate the present age, so the future will never exist. Do you think you can sneak up on the greatest Time Master ever? Devolve you back into 4 little sea dinosaurs and a monkey. Ooh, or perhaps primal sludge.
Alright, any of you familiar with 1960s monster movies are going to know which is my favorite scene here. Let's take a look at distance here. So when we're far away from a character like this, we need the animation to be really broad. We need to cover a lot of ground, have a lot of shape change. You can see the storyboards covered that there. Even though Savante Romero is just sitting down, we have to do a lot. So you got to really lift that staff up high, spin it around some, plant it, rotate it. We can't go for small motions here. The rotation is good for the shape change because he can't do much when he's sitting. Range of motion on the bottom of the staff there is important, the time scepter, sorry. Now when he's going to shift his hand on it here, it's a good thing to, just get some more shape change to go throw it and then grab it at a different point at the scepter. And that'll also allow us to have more change in silhouette and more contrast, more snappy timing, more weight. You can see that little hand that I drew there just to show that whenever you've got something pointing in a certain direction, we can't just keep our regular, kind of hammer grip here. You have to rotate those fingers over. And this one here, Savante's in a big upshot here. This makes him look more powerful. It's basically psychologically. I think it comes from, when you're a child, you're always looking up at the adults. They have the power. And so an upshot gives the same, psychological impact for us there. Hand loose here. Similar thing here with the fingers really adjusting to the direction of the staff, taking advantage of the perspective, foreshortening. You can see the staff getting thinner in the distance there. And when it comes to something like that, where you have to have the staff right into the camera, it's useful to start with that end pose and then work backwards out of that, rather than try and animate into it and try and make it work. You can see here the silhouette with the back of the time scepter clear from the horns. That's just giving some overlap and then showing that shape change of the silhouette. Savante always had a scary mouth, so it's nice to do some fun lip sync with him as well. And then we cut wide here, and the turtles and Renette and Savante are interacting in the background. You see that in the storyboard they put a bunch of rocks in the foreground. The way that they lit them, we ended up having these rocks so that they all look like one mass. So the heads are all turning, they're wondering what's going on. You can see between those two frames what the difference is. And then in the foreground, boom, we're going to get that one fist coming up based on the storyboards there. The rim lights on the rocks really just set up this these terrific shapes here. And there comes the second hand, boom. You can see that the fingers are actually, it's all a cheat. Because they're all bones, they're not actually connected. There's no muscles and tendons. It's just they're rotating where they would be. So let's hide the boards and take a look at that right hand there. The rocks are skewering the arm connection. We don't need to touch the rocks with the the arms with the rocks. It's all just the illusion of making that work. And you can see now that everything in the background is blurred. Savante and the turtles, it's about focusing on the foreground. Now here we have a very limited color palette. It's all different shades of this bluey green. We have all these skeletons advancing here. It's all about setting up the danger. Another one's going to come in the foreground, more in the top right there. It's just this constant motion where everyone's coming forward. Keeping the silhouettes really clear is important because they're at such a distance. We can't see that much detail. Threats in every direction. We got to keep those swords. Now this one here, Jason and the Argonauts. So quickly, when I was a kid, I used to scour the TV guide to see what was coming up in the next week, and they would often have, or often enough, these movies. Jason and the Argonauts, 1963. They would have these on 2, 3 in the morning. So I would set my alarm. I'd get up early in the morning and I'd go watch these. So this one has been in my brain ever since I was a kid. And so when I got the chance to animate this on Turtles, and I was, handing out the scene, so I got to animate it and send it to myself, it was like, yep, I am going to let the studio pay me to relive one of my dream scenes from when I was a child and utilize the resources in place for modeling and rigging and lighting and rendering and all these beautiful things, and all I had to do was the animation. And yeah, so it's same principles. You know, you get to all of them offsetting. They're all coming down at different times. I actually was hoping that we could animate these skeletons on 2s instead of on 1s. It wasn't going to work though for motion blur. I think it was going to break the pipeline, so we had to have them all animating on 1s. So you got parallax between overlapping skeletons there. Now, whenever we've got the spear, we've got the hands constrained to the spear, and I'll go into that a bit more later, but basically you want to take the spear and you want to be able to rotate that and have the hands attached to it rather than have one hand controlling what's going on. It's just much simpler. You can see the boards here. There was our composition with the 5 characters. They're all tightening up ranks. They all have their LARPing costumes on. If you see this episode, Mikey's like, hey, Renette. And this is a callback to a previous episode where they all dress up as Dungeons and Dragons characters. Both hands on all the weapons here. It's easier when you've got like a sword or something like that because the hands are together. Whenever you've got a staff, it's trickier. Same here with the pivot point. Now this is the same thing where we've got to have the staff, or in this case the spear, driving the hands. That way, and the spear is actually going to be constrained to the COG. So spear will move around, the hands will move with the spear, keeps everything just looking really sharp and tight. And there's a silhouette change on the sword hand. You want to have that foreshortened. And over there you can see the side of it. Look at the height of the head here, talking about shape change. You got the head, and then you got the head overlapping down as the body comes up. See the difference there in the negative space? We have this big open space, and then we have this tight space. And anytime you can do that, when you don't have a lot else going on, you want to take advantage of all that shape change. And then you can see too that where there's a blur whenever the character is moving faster, it's just something to keep in mind. Everything gets a little bit clearer when it's going slower. So if you want to do something subtle, you want to do that when it's going slower. You don't want to be doing when it's doing faster because you won't see it. This shot here, I remember just technically, Savanti's basically walking in a circle here, addressing each turtle in order. And so it was about constraining the camera to the center point and then having it come around here like this, and having Savanti walk similarly to that. Yeah, I can say, yeah, camera's rotating around a center point. Spheres are moving up and down. This is all camera motion. We don't have the spheres moving at all. As Savanti comes in here, he's revealed between the spheres. Now, he's awfully obscured here, and we had to imagine how the spheres would look. We couldn't tell how this is going to turn out ahead of time. So you can see here, these bright edges of these spheres are obscuring Savanti, you know, like crazy. The boards are nice and clear, and we can see everything. So we were working on an early version of this is where Savanti's dressing Renette. The early version, you could see how clear everything was. It's like, oh great, okay, my acting's going to read nice and clear. In the end, you can barely see it. So if I'd known this was the case, I probably would have went for broader motions and not gone for so much subtlety. And you can see it's something like this here. You can see the time scepter. It's going in front and then popping, or going behind, starting behind, going in front of the sphere. It's just how the spheres were done. The camera's going to stop now. We can see some clear acting on Savanti, so I'm glad that worked. And I'll compare this to the original here. Let's just look how this was done. I shouldn't say original, just an early iteration. As Savanti coming around, everything was very clear. All the subtleties, all the camera motion, you know, we never really lost track of the characters. But I'm guessing that those blue spheres just didn't match that. I mean, the colors are beautiful now. Everything's this orangey, yellowy tone, like Mikey's expression here. And so yeah, in the end, I mean, it's all about what looks good. Rotating the staff from the bottom as he's coming forward there, Mikey expression change. Now that he's not moving, we can see that happen. Overlapping the bodies as the sphere is going up and down. We want to have that going on. Yeah, Ninja Turtles, so much fun. Thanks so much for checking it out. I really enjoyed working on this show and have good memories of it. And shout out to all the people that I worked on it with. And I work with some of them in the industry now. It's a small industry, and it's a good industry. Thanks a lot. See you next time.